You know that feeling when you fall in love with a new band? It starts with a single, maybe something you heard in passing, and then next thing you know, you've bought the whole discography and can't bear to listen to any other music. This was the case for film director Mike Nichols, who in 1967 had discovered the folk rock duo Simon and Garfunkel. Now, for the average person, an obsession with a band starts and ends with consuming their music relentlessly, but Nichols wanted more. He wanted Simon and Garfunkel's music in his latest film. A deal was struck, and the reluctant songwriter Paul Simon, who saw writing for movies as selling out, eventually agreed to write 3 songs for the film for the low price of $25,000. You might think that Nichols would take just about anything Simon gave him, given that the director was a superfan, but the first 2 submissions, Punky's Dilemma and Overs, certified classics, were rejected. These 2 songs would later release on the duo's 4th studio album, 1968's Bookends, along with the song Nichols Approved. Unsurprisingly, Simon was unwilling to give up the song that would become a hit for the film and the band. Nichols recalled the following quote from Simon when he asked about the song. Quote, "It's not for the movie. It's a song about times past, about Mrs. Eleanor Roosevelt and Joe DiMaggio and stuff." End quote. To hear bandmate Art Garfunkel tell it, though, the song wasn't going anywhere, as he called it, quote, "a trifle song we were about to throw out." During the songwriting process, Simon had interchangeably used the name Mrs. Roosevelt as well as the name of one of the main characters in Nichols' movie. With some pushing from our music-obsessed director, the decision was made to lose Mrs. Roosevelt and replace her with the adulterous woman from the film, The Graduate. The movie features an incomplete version of the song. The duo performed the piece while watching the scenes in the film where it would play, but this is not the version that would go on to win them the 1969 Grammy for Record of the Year. The final version of the track came out in February of 1968, 3 months after the film's release. The timing might seem off, but the later release of the single actually served to further promote the film and cemented both the movie and the single into the popular consciousness. That's right, we're talking Simon and Garfunkel's Mrs. Robinson this week on Cover Me's Blockbuster Summer.
And here's to you, Mrs. Robinson. Jesus loves you more than you will know. Whoa, whoa, whoa. God bless you, please, Mrs. Robinson.
That's right, it's Cover Me, the only podcast that compares famous songs to their many cover versions to find out which one is deep. I'm your host, as always, The Snake, joined by my Jolton co-host.
Alex Mildenberger.
Alex, how you doing?
Oh, I'm feeling pretty good, actually. The smoke cleared out, clouds blew away. Things are looking nice. We're doing some preliminary vacation prep.
You love it. You love the prep
when we're going away in a couple weeks. It's exciting times.
Exciting times to be alive, and Alex, there's been no smoke here, which is unusual for a Vancouver summer, I'll tell you that.
It's very nice.
It's very nice. I don't mind it, but it is hot as fuck out here all the time.
Yeah, there is that part.
They're bringing the heat, brother, and I was like for it, and now I'm just like, I don't know, it's too much heat. You know what they say, it only gets hotter. Alex, speaking of hot, we're talking about the hottest band this side of 1967.
We are.
Simon and Garfunkel.
Simon and Garfunkel themselves. Yeah, they're a pretty big deal. I mean, we've talked about them a while back. I think that was the last time we discussed them directly when we talked about Hazy Shade of Winter.
Yeah, I think so.
Although we like to bring them up sometimes, talk about, being a Kellogg's cornflake or whatever.
Yeah, Punky's Dilemma.
Yeah, which was rejected for this movie.
Yeah, which is insane. This movie, The Graduate. Alex, have you seen The Graduate?
I haven't seen The Graduate, but I have The Graduate soundtrack on vinyl, courtesy of my aunt and uncle.
Wow, shout out aunt and uncle.
Yeah, because they basically got rid of a whole bunch of records, and I took them all, including, this one. So, and this song, of course, I knew this song, and I was generally familiar with The Graduate because it's been referenced a lot.
Yes.
In other media. And I mean, when I was younger, like elementary school age, I was really into Wayne's World and Wayne's World 2. And Wayne's World 2 has like an extended Graduate reference section that I didn't get at the time.
What did they do in it?
They do the like you're trying to seduce me bit with the shot under the leg.
Oh, yeah.
With the wedding interruption. And I mean, one of the versions we're going to talk about today is in the movie too. So
Yes. In the movie The Graduate.
in the movie Wayne's World 2.
Oh, okay. Is it what is okay? Sure, yeah. Hell yeah, The Graduate. I just watched it this week, Alex.
Okay, what'd you think?
I thought it was pretty good, and then I checked it on Wikipedia and it was like this satire, and I was like, oh, it's a satire film. I didn't fucking know. It's one of those things where it's like it's too old. Like there was like comedy and things in it, but I was like, this is a pretty artsy film, and they're like, it's satire on the youth. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
I guess.
it's tough to pick up on this. That stuff is so like of the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or often, you know, and you're like, well, that's just Dustin Hoffman being, I don't know, a shockingly old-looking 22-year-old.
Yeah, he's supposed to be 22 in that. He looks ancient. And yeah, it's like I get it, because he does like a ton of crazy shit, and it's like a bit goofy, but I was just like, I don't know what it's... Are we making fun of Mrs. Robinson? Are we making fun of the youth? Are we making fun of hotels? Like it's unclear.
Yeah, like
to me,
what
man.
does it have to say that was relevant? What is it, 50-some years ago?
Yeah. What does it have
And-
to say is a question we're going to be asking pretty soon here with the lyrics of this song. Alex, you
Yeah.
a big fan of this song?
I really like this song. Yeah,
It's a good song. I think.
absolutely. I mean, I've known it for such a long time. I remember hearing it. Like my sister used to make mix CDs, like burn CDs all the time.
Yeah.
And this was one of those songs on those, so we'd listen to it in the car and stuff. It was like
Nice.
this and like Sweet Caroline, like I don't know, that sort of. There were more songs too.
Yeah.
Heaven?
Like
Brian Adams.
Heaven. Brian Adams. Jesus, why was your sister making mix CDs for 40-year-old men?
You know, we were like 9 to 12 years old at the time, so this was all new stuff.
Right.
You know?
It's brand
was
new
very
to y'all.
exciting
You're like,
to find this music.
this is some hot tracks here, man.
Yeah.
Well, hot damn, Alex. Yeah, I like this one too. It gets confusing as soon as we hit the lyrics here because there's like overlapping stories and weird interpretations of things, and what we
And
need
a
to
lot of it
understand
was
is
kind of
that.
written on the fly, right? Like,
Well, yeah. So there's the bits that actually appear in the film, which
Right.
is 2 verses, and it's really just like the chorus and like a slightly different chorus. Like
True.
the film version doesn't have most of this shit in it.
yeah, there's actually kind of 2 versions in the film too,
Yeah,
or at least there's 2
kind
versions on the
of.
soundtrack album.
One's the one that is just deet 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 deet
That's
deet
true.
deet deets, and then the other one is that plus here's to you, Mrs. Robinson. You're a dirty hoe, don't you know? Whoa, whoa,
Or
whoa,
whatever.
whatever they say in there. But people go nuts for this because they're like, well, the song's originally about Mrs. Roosevelt and
Which
so
I
these
think
lyrics.
is an overblown story, personally.
Yeah.
Based on what I
agree.
have, I mean, looking at like the old interview where he talks about that, which is with it's like on the Dick Cavett show.
Dick Cavett show, yeah.
Which I didn't watch all of the interview, but I watched some of it, and like, he was just using Roosevelt as another placeholder, but it's not like he wasn't saying Robinson as well.
Yeah, he was kind of
Right.
like bouncing him back and forth, probably because he was like, well, I do need to get one more song in.
Yeah,
for
and like he was
The
working on
Graduate.
set, obviously, right? Because they were like playing while they were filming, kind of thing,
Yeah.
which is wild, but also fun sounding.
Well, yeah, it seems like that's when they kind of like ironed it out. So he was like on tour and then like
Oh,
probably
yeah.
on a phone call or something with Mike Nichols. And he's like, hang on. Because there's like, even that has multiple stories where he's
Yeah.
like, you guys have a song called Mrs. Robinson and you're not giving it to me. He's like, well, sometimes it's Mrs. Roosevelt. And he's like, fuck you. It's Mrs. Robinson,
Robinson
now.
now,
Like, do
yeah.
it.
And like he's also said, like, I just needed 3 syllables, right? Like it's Mrs.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
what's the Paul McCartney one? Yesterday, Scrambled Eggs.
scrambled eggs, yeah, scrambled eggs.
It's just, he just needed something to fit the meter for that moment.
Yeah, so it doesn't seem like, to me, the Roosevelt connection means a whole lot. It's
Yeah.
somewhat related to maybe some of the other things, just in terms of like current events and like what he was thinking about at the time. you know? Because a lot of this is what Paul Simon would just like had knocking around in his brain.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it's like his quote is like it's a song about times past, about Mrs. Roosevelt and Joe DiMaggio and stuff. And what really comes through is the Joe DiMaggio in this song more than anything else.
And even that, like, it's kind of funny. Another quote from the interview, well, paraphrase, but he says something like, "Yeah, I wrote it, and like I wasn't quite sure, but then I thought about it later, and I thought like, yeah, that totally means something," and like it does not elaborate at all.
Yeah, that's funny, and because apparently he's we're talking around the song, but like we'll do this for a bit longer.
Yeah.
Joe DiMaggio, I'm embarrassed to admit, I thought he was a politician
Okay.
because he also appears in the song "We Didn't Start the Fire."
Yes.
I was like, okay, yeah, he's probably some politician guy. He's got a nickname like Joltin' Joe, baseball player. He's a baseball player.
Yeah, he's a baseball
and apparently Paul Simon's more of a Mickey Mantle fan. And so, from that same interview, fucking Dick Cavett like, well, why didn't you write about Mickey Mantle? And he's like, it's about syllables, Dick. It's about how many beats there are.
That's a name we don't use much anymore.
No, it certainly isn't.
Dick.
But, yeah, so even the inclusion of Joe DiMaggio, who, like you mentioned in your Paul Simon quote, he's like, yeah, that kind of works in hindsight, is like, was also just there to fit the meter. And that, I guess, is my proposal for looking at this song today, is that I do think in hindsight it works by weaving in, the Paul Simon thoughts of the time and also, like, ideas of The Graduate and what happens in that film. It kind of just seems to work.
Yeah, and I mean, it's maybe, I don't want to say like a fluke, because I think a lot of the time with like Paul Simon, and you know, really wrote kind of as a poet, right? Like he's a big poetry guy. So looking at his contemporaries in like Bob Dylan and then some earlier like maybe even like beat poet types that they were influenced by, a lot of it can be, at least at the creation part, like very like free form, and like it doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense, but like it can be associated with like a feeling, if that makes sense. So like it makes some sense, but it can be very abstract.
Right, yeah, if not capturing like a concrete idea with like a thesis, it at least captures like a feeling he had at that point in time.
Yeah, exactly.
And what better way to capture that than when D D D D D D D D D D D D do 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 D D D D D D D D D D D. Now this is important because that comes up in the film as well, and that like that wasn't like again not an artistic choice. That was a we don't fucking have lyrics yet choice.
It's a I know.
Exactly, where he in fact didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or where do we go? Also, I had so the Calgary Stampede just happened.
Yes.
And so I had a Stampede barbecue event at my work, and we had like a guy playing guitar there, and he did a cover of "Sweet Child of Mine," solo acoustic guitar. So,
solo acoustic.
Right on.
Right on. He's like, this one's from the latest Thor movie. You might recognize it.
If you're a big Marvel head.
This is for all you Marvel heads in the audience.
Yeah. The other thing he was talking about in that interview was how, like, the intro section, he would kind of, like, because they were playing along with, like, the movie. I don't know if it, I don't know if it's filming or, like, they were watching footage or whatever.
They were watching footage.
Makes more sense.
Yeah.
Because, like, it's too much going on.
Some of it's him driving a car. They couldn't be in a separate car.
True. Right, because it's like, he said it was a chase scene, which, is there a chase scene in the movie?
Kind of. So,
okay.
there's
like
the wedding at the end. He's like driving to get to the wedding and find it. It's more, it's like a chase scene, but more of like almost detective style, because he like goes to these different places to get clues to where the wedding is.
Okay. So he's driving around, and like that was what the introduction was kind of written for. Was just like driving around town and like dee 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 dee. But also the guitar part, which we'll get into later.
Yeah, and like they're very like I don't know who was in charge of music, if it was way back enough that Mike Nichols just kind of handled everything on that front, but he like reuses like almost every track in the film at least twice. Sound of Silence is played at the start, at the end, and another time kind of mid-roll of the film. This one comes up. There's another Simon Garfunkel track that plays a few times. I've never seen anybody use music like that. No, it's Scarborough Fair. Are you going to Scarborough Fair?
Rosemary in Time?
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah, and I mean the soundtrack, because I've only heard the soundtrack, kind of is similar in that like the songs pop up multiple times. Yeah.
Right, they repeat. So yeah, it's quite interesting. He like was very clearly obsessed with Simon and Garfunkel, which is funny. You read Wikipedia, it's like he had listened to them for 2 weeks straight. You're like, oh, okay.
Like, wow. Hope he ate something.
Yeah, I hope he was doing other things, but yeah. So there you go. Your D-to-D-do-do-do-do-do is explained. And here's to you, Mrs. Robinson. Jesus loves you more than you will know. Whoa, whoa, whoa. God bless you, please, Mrs. Robinson. Heaven holds a place for those who pray. Hey, hey, hey. Hey, hey, hey.
One thing I remember about listening to the song at a young age was it's very like evocative of something. Like I was always fascinated by like trying to work out what the fuck he was talking about.
Yeah, because it's never really directly referenced.
But
you have to know the movie to know why Mrs. Robinson is being called to Jesus here.
Yeah, what do you mean being called to Jesus? Like what?
Well, this is him being like, listen, you may be an adulterous slut, but Jesus loves you more than you will know, and you can still pray and find God.
Right, so it's like it's about the redemption, kind of.
Kind of. I do wonder if there's like tongue-in-cheekness here, similar to the hit satire film itself.
Right.
Or like it is strange in that regards, because I also don't take Paul Simon for a religious man, though I could be wrong there.
He talks about religion a lot.
He does.
In his songs, he'll talk about Christian things usually. So which I suspect. I mean, I thought he was Jewish, though. Am I wrong?
That's a great question there, Alex. Paul Frederick Simon.
But I'm not sure,
born in
actually.
Jersey. Religion. He likes religious music, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, he definitely comes up in his music, like as a theme.
Comes up, yeah, it's for sure. So is this one feels so weirdly like evangelizing as opposed to his other stuff, which is like about seeing angels in the architecture.
Yeah. Yeah, but this is very direct, right?
Yeah.
God bless you, please.
But yeah, so it brings up the idea of adultery. It brings up the idea of God, and that you can, like, even though you cheat, you know, heaven holds a place for those who pray. There's still goodness in this world, is sort of the idea that will later be, like, portrayed with this old world idea of good in the character of Joe DiMaggio.
Yeah, a symbol of kind of the past.
Yes. Of simple times with simple heroes.
Yes, Paul Simon, born to Hungarian Jewish immigrants, and he had a bar mitzvah, but doesn't really practice.
Doesn't really practice. Okay, yeah, he's got like loose spirituality vibes.
Yeah, for sure.
And like religious tones. Interesting guy. We'd like to know a
even his latest album is called Seven Psalms, so like it's biblical connection there.
Damn, yeah.
He seems interested in the ideas, for sure.
Certainly. We'd like to know a little bit about you for our files. We'd like to help you learn to help yourself. Look around you, all you see are sympathetic eyes. Stroll around the grounds until you feel at home.
Yeah, I mean, this is a part where I for sure, as a young person, like immediately thought like, this is some kind of institution.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and maybe at the time it would have been like a sanitarium or something, I don't know.
Right, she's hanging out with Norman Maine there.
Yeah,
Mr.
hanging out with Norman Maine, and what was his attendant's name?
Mr. Cuddles, I think.
Cuddles. Yeah, and it's the description of that, right? Like it's very kind of disconnected, right? Because we're talking to presumably Mrs. Robinson.
Yeah, so this is where your geniuses come in. They're like, it's about Eleanor Roosevelt, man, and her like she wants to help. They kind of like lose their perspective as they talk about it. They're like, first it's her and her method of trying to help the lower classes here, to help people of color, and then they're like, and then she's been institutionalized, brother, and she's around the grounds. No, so I had to like Google that. I was like, fucking Eleanor Roosevelt institution. It's like, here's some institutions named after Eleanor Roosevelt. Right. I'm like looking through her fucking life so there's no like charity real basis for any. I think the discussion of Eleanor Roosevelt begins and ends with like the origin point of this song. Really I don't think like it plays into the final
mostly
version.
A dead end, but yeah, the nostalgia thing more than anything.
But yeah, we get this idea of, like you said, like a sanitarium, like a psychiatric help facility of some kind, I'll look around you, all you see are sympathetic eyes, stroll around the grounds until you feel at home. This is somebody who's been checked into a facility, right?
Yeah, and they're being very, like, gentle, right? So, like, everyone is here to help you, basically. Like, hey, just, take your time. We want you to feel comfortable here. So, like, that's kind of what I get out of it as, in terms of the tone of whoever's talking to her. But maybe, I mean, we talked about the film being a satire, and, like, maybe that sort of poking fun at the idea of, like, a person like Mrs. Robinson, like, needing this sort of a facility,
Yeah, when she's
like, when I mean,
that's the thing.
She's not being a great person, but, like, she's just ultimately, like, just cheating on her husband, which is, like, not a insane thing to do.
Yeah, and
Just
quite, like,
not a nice thing to do.
knowingly, and, like, it's not like she ever had any misgivings about doing it. So what happens in the film is she tells Dustin Hoffman's character, she's like, don't fucking see my daughter, because everybody else keeps pressuring him to go out with the daughter.
Right.
And she's like, you don't fucking do that. And then he does once, and then they, like, connect, and he's like, I want to see her again. And then she's like, you don't fucking do it. She's like, you go see her again, I will tell her everything. And then he's like, well, fuck you, I'll go tell her everything. So he does, gets kicked out of the house, and then she tells a different story. She claims to have been sexually assaulted by him. So I'm wondering if this is supposed to be, like, post or mid the movie, where it's got to be post the film, because she doesn't get checked into a facility at any point in the film, but where, in order to keep up her version of the story, where she's a victim and not a willing participant in an adulterous relationship, she goes to, like, a sanitarium.
Yeah, I feel like
is this
layers.
Supposed to be the Graduate fanfic or something?
Yeah,
or
it's like a few steps removed, so we can really only speculate. But it does, like, that's the feeling you get.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so open to interpretation.
Yeah, and even because we're bringing in these ideas of nostalgia, it's like, are they trying to help? Because she's, like, lost love in her husband. Are they trying to help her get back to that, but it can't be done? I don't fucking know, man. It's
Yeah, is that her, like, deficiency or her insanity or whatever, is just trying to recapture youth or something like that?
Youth, yeah, I'm not sure. But when we come to verse 2, we get another chorus in between there. But verse 2 is very much related to the plot of the film. It's hide it in a hiding place where no one ever goes. Put it in your pantry with your cupcakes. It's a little secret, just the Robinsons' affair. Most of all, you've got to hide it from the kids.
Right. I mean, they literally talk about say affair, right?
Yeah.
Are there other connections to the plot other than he's talking about being secretive?
No, I think that's really it.
Okay. I was curious if the cupcakes maybe played into it, because I wasn't sure.
That plays into, like, old-timey and sort of, this is maybe the tongue-in-cheekness of it. It's like, hide your affair in the same place you hide your other guilty pleasure, your sweet cupcakes.
Oh,
it's like...
Yeah. Because I was thinking about that, and one article I read used the phrase Betty Crocker cupcakes. And I was like, where did they get Betty Crocker from? So I was trying to figure out if there was something there about, like, do you store cupcakes in the pantry? Not really.
Not really.
You want to keep them refrigerated
mix.
Or something, right?
Yeah.
So, like, if you have cupcakes in the pantry, is it like a cake mix at that point? Or is that just what this other person got out of it, and now I've read too much into it because they said Betty Crocker cupcakes? So is there this, like, aspect of fakeness to it? And I don't think Betty Crocker boxed cup, if you get, like, cake mix, I wouldn't necessarily consider that fake, but, like, maybe that's the approach of the song. I was trying to see if there was something there, but I'm not 100% sure. The idea of, like, keep it hidden along with, like, all the other things you're trying to cover up about yourself that are fake kind of thing. But I don't know.
I don't know. It feels like a bit of a reach to me.
Yeah, it's like a few steps, right?
Yeah,
and all based on some
feels
random comment.
Reachy here, because it's like, I don't know. I get, like, on one side, it's just like, well, you hide things in the back of the cabinet, right? In the back of the pantry. You're just like, well, nobody goes back there.
True. Yeah. Also, like, the fact that you wouldn't necessarily keep cupcakes in a pantry. It's never stopped a song from saying weird shit like that before.
But that's
It's
also what
about
makes me
syllables, Dick.
believe that the cupcakes are also. It's about syllables, Dick. That makes me believe. That makes me believe the cupcakes are also like an illicit good in this storytelling.
Right, guilty pleasure.
Yeah. But again, that's also a bit of a reach. Like, but also you can't hide an affair inside of a pantry. Beyond Betty Crocker's cupcakes here, let's just take a step back. You're not hiding a full man in there.
True, although as like a comic thing, maybe.
Sure.
I mean, okay, this is a few steps removed. So there's another Paul Simon. Is it Paul Simon? I think it's Simon Garfunkel. Ophelia?
Yeah.
Where like...
Wait, no. That might be just Paul Simon.
I'm down on my knee.
You're Cecilia.
Cecilia. Yeah, not Ophelia.
Ophelia is the band.
You're right. I had the wrong Elia. Anyway, Cecilia.
Yeah.
Where like he like goes to wash his face and then he comes back and like there's another man there. He's like, oh
right.
fuck. I mean, I don't remember who it was. I heard a whole like stand-up bit someone did about like where'd the man come from? You know, all that stuff. What I'm saying
Cecilia's supposed to be
Paul Simon likes
she?
to hide people in closets and places.
In closets. Okay, he likes people to jump out of strange places.
Yeah.
So maybe, but then he's also
so that's the connection. It took some work.
Sure. So yeah, the rest of it's easy. It's a little secret, just the Robinsons' affair. Most of all, you got to hide it from the kids. The kid was specifically like her daughter.
I know. I like how the kid is like 20.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, even Mrs. Robinson isn't that old. She's supposed to be like 36.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. I do remember looking at like the cast and it was like the mother and daughter were actually like 3 years apart or something, like in age, in real life.
Yeah, I would.
But we do that all the time.
Now to just further muddy things, how about a Beatles reference? Cuckoo, Cachoo, Mrs. Robinson.
Yeah, throw it at me. That just seems like a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
Or does it have something to do with? I mean, the walrus is the odd man out, right?
Yeah.
So is she feeling isolated?
I was also going to say, like, it's a bit like maybe it's calling her impulses nonsensical, much like the song "I Am the Walrus."
The song "I Am the Walrus." Yes. To be clear, that is a reference to the Beatles song "I Am the Walrus." Yes, we know now it's "Goo Goo Gajoob," but we apparently didn't know that back then.
We didn't know that back then.
So I mean, I didn't even know that in like 2003. So like,
yeah.
That's just one of those internet
factoids. You thought you knew everything.
/ things I learned from the Beatles rock band.
From the Beatles rock band, Goo Goo Gajoob. Yeah, so that's a Beatles reference for y'all. You're welcome. Verse 3, sitting on a sofa on a Sunday afternoon, going to the candidates debate, laugh about it, shout about it, when you've got to choose. Every way you look at it, you lose.
Yeah, this verse seems like so quaint compared to the other ones.
Yeah.
Like, almost like you're sort of, I mean, in terms of the hero's journey, you know? The end of the hero's journey is like you go back, but you can't go back. Like you go back to normal life, or you attempt to, but you've been changed by the experience. So like it almost feels like we're back from maybe the sanitarium and like trying to live a normal life, but you can't live a normal life. Now, what does that mean in terms of the song? I'm not entirely sure, but that's the feeling this verse gives me.
Well, yeah, it seems to be like my interpretation, because people are like, oh, the candidates debate, Eleanor Roosevelt. Shut up.
Right.
We don't need this. Sitting on a sofa on a Sunday afternoon, going to the candidates debate, you can't do both of those things. We're running into another Betty Crocker issue here. Like,
is that the thing? Is like they're deciding like, ooh, what I want to do today, and it does seem somewhat mundane compared to the other verses.
Yeah, and that's to me, it's almost like relating back to the adultery. And maybe the candidates debate is her debating whether to tell the truth or not, right?
Okay.
So the candidates debate is in her brain, and laugh about it, shout about it. When you've got to choose, every way you look at it, you lose. If she comes clean, she's gonna be looked down on. If she keeps the secret up, she might have to keep going to a fucking sanitarium. Like she's running out of good options here. There's no right answer.
Yeah, it does to me seem to be about like a decision, kind of.
Yes, and the complexity of loss, which maybe is contrasted in the next verse, which is our call to nostalgia, our call to Joe DiMaggio.
Yeah, which is interesting. I mean, it's really, I guess it's a variation of the chorus / an outro or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, so it's Where Have You Gone, Joe DiMaggio? A nation turns its lonely eyes to you. Woo, woo, woo. What's that you say, Mrs. Robinson? Joltin' Joe has left and gone away. Hey, 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 hey.
Yeah, another like fascinating part. I did know that Joe DiMaggio was a baseball player. I didn't know much
Okay,
more
Alex.
than that.
Look at Alex, everybody. He's got a degree.
Degree in knowing baseball players.
Known baseball. What? A couple weeks back, it was a tennis player. Now it's a baseball player.
Well, did I say Roger Federer or something?
Yeah, I think it was something like that.
I know like 3 tennis players. Someone referenced the time I work. I go to the gym with a guy who plays tennis, and he's like talking about some tournament, probably Wimbledon, and I was like, I don't know any of these names.
It's all tennis to me, brother.
It's all tennis to me. They weren't even Greek. Well, I mentioned Tunisia. And,
of course. And they're like
there's
great
apparently a
tennis scene out
Tunisian
there.
player who did very well.
Oh, okay.
Or, yeah, something like that. Anyway,
so,
to get
Alex,
back on track.
To get back to this, Paul Simon met Joe DiMaggio one time.
Right.
Of course. And Joe DiMaggio said, "What I don't understand is why you ask where I've gone. I just did a Mr. Coffee commercial. I'm a spokesman for the Bowery Savings Bank, and I haven't gone anywhere." To which Simon replied that I didn't mean the lines literally, that I thought of him as an American hero, and that genuine heroes were in short supply. He accepted the explanation and thanked me. We shook hands and said goodnight.
Yeah, that's an interesting. I mean, I don't know if I would have gotten it without that explanation. I have heard either that story or, people talking about this line in the context of that story, because it does seem to be he's talking about this idea of like, where have you gone? Not Joe DiMaggio necessarily, but like the idea of like a role model almost.
Yeah, this American hero, like he says, this simple, it's just like, he's a beacon of goodness. To which then Mrs. Robinson's like, nah, Joltin' Joe's fucking gone. He's not here anymore.
Yeah.
Which plays into like every way you look at it. You lose idea from the last verse.
God is dead, more or less.
Yeah, God is dead. Morality doesn't exist.
Something like that, right? Am I going too far?
Yeah, it's like, I feel like, Mrs. Robinson is maybe a little nihilistic.
Yeah, I guess it's just Mrs. Robinson. I never really thought of that as Mrs. Robinson's response. But it makes sense.
What's that
context.
You say, Mrs. Robinson?
Yeah, what's that you say, Mrs. Robinson? Oh, Joltin' Joe has left and gone away? He's left for Mrs. Robinson.
Because you're like, where have all the good heroes gone? And she's like, they're fucking dead.
And where are
not
all
coming
the
back. It's kind of similar to all these evil mothers who are going to tell you everything is just dirt.
Just dirt. Yeah. Well, I mean, and it's always tough to look at things in historical context, right? Because I'm like Joe DiMaggio, he was at the time, I think he had retired.
Yeah, but he was in a Mr. Coffee commercial.
He was still
a
around.
spokesman for the Bowery Savings Bank.
He was like around. I think he I don't know the years exactly. He married Marilyn Monroe at one point for like 9 months.
Hell yeah, way to go.
So like he was in like the news, and he still worked in baseball. I think he was like a coach or something. So like he was around, but he was still like from the past, kind of a hero from the past.
Yeah, but it is weird because like,
sorry, no,
there's this fucking verse, this chorus, this outro gets included in, and it becomes such a like piece of Joe DiMaggio history or Joe DiMaggio that. When he passes away, Paul Simon performs Mrs. Robinson in his honor, like at a funeral.
Yeah, which is, I mean, it's more well known for saying Joe DiMaggio than We Didn't Start the Fire, probably.
Yeah, probably.
It's better remembered, I think.
A lot more names though in We Didn't Start the Fire, so
that's
it's
true. You could sing that at a lot of funerals.
You got Joe McCarthy's Richard Nixon, Studebaker Television, North Korea, South Korea, Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah.
Who, of course, was married to Joe DiMaggio for 9 months, as we all know.
Yeah, and like, now I was reading up on them, because I was like, what's the deal? Because the Joe DiMaggio Wikipedia page mentions, like, he was remembered for, like, his dedication to Marilyn Monroe. And I was like, oh, were they married for long? It's like, no. But apparently...
very dedicated
they were, like, in the process of kind of getting back together, maybe. And then she died. And he was very distraught. And, like, brought flowers to her grave for decades until he died, basically.
He died.
So that's the story I learned this week about Joe DiMaggio.
That's the story. Well, I hope that helps everyone.
Does that help everyone understand the song? It's mostly about the movie, really.
Yeah, pretty much is what it comes down to. Like,
and like also some stuff Paul Simon was thinking about like nostalgia and heroes and like role
this
models.
is like last week for us, 2 weeks ago for listeners. You talked about Lady Gaga with her quote about how it's these kids and their damn phones.
We did talk about that.
And how you're like, it kind of sounds like she's attaching an idea she kind of half baked to a thing that was already completed, and that's maybe a little bit of this as well.
I think that's a lot of music. That's a lot of the like weird 90-degree turns in songs. Where you're like, oh, okay, I guess, yeah, it sounds cool. I don't know.
I can see how you could be thinking about this at the same time. I guess, like,
yeah.
Not shitting on the technique. It works.
No, but, it makes it a pretty good song.
Sure does.
In my opinion. Especially considering, I mean, we talked about how he rejected Punky's Dilemma and Overs, which maybe didn't fit the movie that well, but I really like both those songs.
Yeah, those are great songs.
I did give Bookends another listen this week. I'm a pretty big fan of Bookends. It's also easy to listen to. It's like 30-some minutes long.
Yeah.
Front to
one
back.
Track is just like old people talking.
That's a very interesting track.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, it's just old people talking about like mundane stuff, but like those people are all dead now.
That's right. You can only know that they would honestly give $100.
$100
something.
I can't remember what for.
I can't.
It's like for something specifically though.
For something, yeah. He's like, I would honestly give $100 for, and then it like kind of starts to fade out.
It's like anyone who I don't know. He like wants a person who'll do something or something. I don't remember.
Right. Probably a hand job or something.
Yeah.
Speaking of hand jobs, plucking strings on a guitar. The original version of this is really just like guitar and some dee-da-dee-da-dee-da-dees.
Yeah, it has one other big difference, which is the rhythm.
Right.
It has the like ba 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 ba
ba ba ba ba. Yeah.
Often called a Bo Diddley beat.
Hey. You love a Bo Diddley beat. So, Alex, what really happens between that version and the completed version? Let's ask Art Garfunkel. He says, we tightened the harmonies and became something very appealing. I remember walking into the studio with Hal Blaine playing congas, Larry Netchell playing bass, and Paul playing terrific chugga-chugga rhythm guitar, all around one microphone. I tiptoed into the control room to check that we were recording and started getting very excited, thinking, this has got it. It swings like a mother. That's spelled M-U-T-H-A, a mother.
What? I'm like, I wish I knew Art Garfunkel's speaking voice better so I could imagine him saying mother.
I feel like he's quite a high-pitched guy, isn't he? Like, it swings like a mother.
I mean, he sings really high.
Yeah. He also did percussion on this, because I was like, Larry Netchell on bass, what is Art Garfunkel even doing here then?
I guess harmonies, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it is mostly Paul Simon singing here.
Yes. So your key bits, that fucking little guitar riff.
Yeah, that's like a big little melody. Very cool melody on the acoustic guitar. But it's also like chugging, like you said, right? So there's kind of like two guitar things going on. Plus, there's the guitar playing like little licks. Again, this is from the Dick Cavett interview. Paul Simon said he was just riffing, essentially playing a fill. But it's that ascending pattern. Do 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 do.
Yeah, and you've got that, and like the dee-dee-dee-dees that come in. Like this intro is built to be a fill, really.
Yeah.
So playing some little guitar licks off top of it. You got a pretty steady bass rhythm, some shakers, a little.
Yes, you get that little bit of shaker. This part's just so like it's one of those like super iconic things for me. Like I've just known it forever.
So you know you're gonna have a good time for the next like the few minutes here.
Yeah. I think that's it mostly, and there's kind of two major sections. This intro, which also comes back in the verses, and then it goes into the chorus. It actually starts with the chorus.
Yes.
After the intro.
Oh yeah, if you count, because like the first verse is the dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dees, but it's the same.
Oh, does that count? Yeah, I'll count.
I mean, yes and no.
I guess it's an intro, and then there's a chorus that's basically an outro. So
yeah. But yeah, it's a pretty simple composition. because it is based mostly on just like acoustic rhythm, a little bouncy bass, and then some noodling.
Yeah, pretty much. That and then like that other guitar part that comes in during the other sections.
What a
but you
guitar
get some
part
like
it is.
clapping, and we talked about the shaker already. There's a cymbal on the chorus,
Yes. Very tight cymbal.
which I don't always notice. The bass is pretty simple. Mostly plays on the downbeat. It does kind of little turnarounds at the end of like measures.
Yeah.
And then like it plays the boom, ba-doom, ba-doom, ba-doom. Like it has this descending pattern it plays when the vocals are pausing a bit. So like more than you will know.
Boom,
Whoa, whoa, and
ba-doom,
it plays boom,
ba-doom,
ba-doom, whoa, whoa, whoa.
ba-doom.
And
Yeah,
then
yeah,
pray.
yeah.
Hey, hey, hey. Yeah. So it has that little descending pattern. What else? There's not like it stays relatively even. I think there's more backups once it gets to the later choruses.
Yeah, you hit about 136 and you start getting these.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess that's the harmonies they
Garfunkel, yeah.
worked on.
That's the harmonies they tightened up.
They tightened up. But yeah, it's pretty much just, in the chorus, plays that bit, and then they get back into the intro type section as they transition into the verse. So simple. I assume the licks change throughout. It's kind of...
Oh, yeah, it's
they
very,
seem
like,
to.
free form.
Yeah. But that's kind of it, you know?
They're like a little more whispery on the Robinson's Affair verse.
True, which kind of makes sense, right? Based on the whole verse about keeping secrets, so they sort of quiet down a little bit. So it's like kind of a breakdown, but not quite.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like,
and then just iconic as that intro is that outro, where it is just like literally that one guitar just kind of noodling around.
Really interesting song. Very simple song. Big fan of it. Very acoustic. It's very acoustic. What was interesting, looking up some of the like factoids about it. So it wasn't eligible for the like best song in a movie Oscar.
Yeah, I saw two different stories for this, but yeah, tell me.
Well, supposedly it wasn't eligible. Maybe, but it seemed like this version wasn't, at least, because it wasn't actually like in the movie technically.
Okay.
Because the version of the movie was different.
But I bet the one in the movie was. There's a Paul Simon quote where he's like, "Yeah, we just didn't fill out the paperwork." Like,
and maybe that was it too, right?
Like, we don't fucking care. But I read both of those stories, so it makes sense if you consider the two versions, and probably those restrictions where like, well, this version on the radio is not actually the version in the film, so that one can't be, that one's disqualified. And then for the other one, it's like, well, Paul Simon never submitted the one-page like application form because he didn't care.
Yeah, and like, fair enough. Honestly, don't blame him. I probably would have done the same thing, or there would have been a decent chance of me doing the same thing. In that situation.
Even the Grammy Awards, some people call this the first rock song to win.
That's what I was going to bring up. Rock? Like, I guess, but I don't know.
Rock and roll's an attitude, man.
I guess
Paul
so.
Simon had nothing but attitude.
I guess. I don't know.
It's funny
It
because
seems like a
I do
stretch.
think of them as such like soft dudes, but like they are folk rock. And like
This
even
is
Paul
folk rock,
Simon's attitudes towards this film, he's like, I don't want to be a fucking sellout. And like, like he had very rock and roll ideas.
Yeah. And he did make $25,000, which I looked up, and then translated it into Canadian dollars. In Canadian dollars today is about just over $300,000.
Fuck me.
Yeah.
To be making Paul Simon money, let me tell you.
Yeah. And for 3 songs, 2 of which I think he had already written. Is that correct? No.
He, if not already written, his like he seems like the kind of guy who has a lot of little scraps lying about
to use. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the legacy of this incredible original song. Let's talk about the many, many covers, which vary from mundane to bizarre for a variety of reasons. Beginning with Ray Conniff in 1968.
Hey, Mrs. Robinson, Jesus loves you more than you will know. Whoa, whoa, whoa. God bless you please, Mrs. Robinson. Heaven holds a place for those who...
Yeah, this is a pretty, I would say, standard type of cover you get at the time in this sort of transitional phase between like going into what we now consider to be like rock and roll and pop music, coming from the more like jazz big band or
big band, sort of like pop country, but of like the 50s/60s
type stuff.
Yeah,
and
like
it's the
family band vibe. Yeah.
Which I think we've talked about them before, or definitely similar things, but I don't remember what for.
Yeah, I thought, for some reason, I thought Ray Conniff was in the Elvis movie. He's not. I thought he was the guy that Elvis was touring with, but I was incorrect in that assumption.
Okay, Ray Conniff
did Live and Let Die.
Even like he's like a trombone player, and but primarily like a band leader and an arranger.
And arranger, yeah, that's what people know him as. So yeah, we talked about him on Live and Let Die in the year of our Lord 2020.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Just before the pandemic struck.
Wow.
No wonder we don't remember it.
I don't remember anything from those days.
Yeah. But this is, your real choral country, fucking kind of stiff, like,
yeah, it really
production.
like tightens everything up, I would say.
Yeah, a lot of staccato.
Rhythmically.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Mrs. Robinson. Jesus loves you more than you would know.
There's 25 singers on this, right?
That's too many,
It's like 12 men and 13 women or something like that.
They're trying to fit those all into a mono track? Get out of here.
Well, it was 1968, so they probably had some multi-tracking.
Oh, yeah, Ray Conniff had the money. He could have got two tracks.
If everyone pitched in, there's 25, there's like at least 26 people
Guys,
involved.
If we all put our money together here, we can get stereo.
We can get a second track.
I don't know about that.
It starts with "Hey, Mrs. Robinson."
Hey, Mrs.
Which
Robinson.
definitely makes it feel snappier instead of
no bullshit D-to-Ds off the top.
Nope, no D-to-Ds. What else? What's going on in this arrangement? So significant backbeat accenting, notably on the guitar.
Yeah.
They do have horns. They mostly play between lines in the chorus. Six note part that you have just emulated, and then there's a piano part that does something very similar, but on the verses. It kind of plays little riffs.
Yes.
In the second verse, it gets this like bass kind of drone part almost.
Mm-hmm.
And then both the piano and horns come together on the outro.
Yeah.
And that's sort of mechanical description.
Yeah, it's a mechanical breakdown. Like you said before, it is like stiffer, both in terms of this like more staccato rhythm, like the tightness of the drums, the like everything has like a sort of stiffer vibe, and also that like good clean American music stiffness vibe. Like it's a little like old fashioned, a little family band, a little choral. It's a little more
but maybe like kind of out of necessity, because you're talking about coordinating 30-ish people
right
to do the same thing at the same time.
For sure. I think it also plays into maybe a more... Because like with Paul Simon and Simon Garfunkel singing this, I'm like, I don't really know where they stand on religion and Jesus. There could be some tongue-in-cheekness here. These guys, I'm like, they fully want Mrs. Robinson to come to the light.
Right. Well, the part of that, I think, is they sound like, a choir, which we associate with church so much, right?
Right.
With worship, I guess. But it just kind of has a very different feel throughout, because it does feel like you're supposed to dance to it. Especially with the tick, the beat is much more like for that. So this feels like some like dance hall stuff. I say dance hall, but not like dance hall. Like you're in a dance hall, because the genre of dance hall is very different.
Right. Yes.
But that sort of thing.
That sort of thing. Yeah, I agree. Even the piano gets a little bit of like a dancing. It is like, it's an old-timey hootenanny kind of vibe.
What else? Oh, yeah. The one thing I didn't really mention, or kind of alluded to, a lot of the parts are like separated. Like the instruments will only happen when people are kind of done singing, They're quite separate.
Right, yeah.
We mentioned it feels very snappy. Part of that is they only do 2 verses and 3 choruses, and then they're like done. Right. They don't do the Joe DiMaggio chorus.
Yeah, you will find people skip out on that because they just don't understand it.
Yeah, maybe they're just
Joe
like,
DiMaggio's still here.
I don't know. He didn't leave. Maybe he hates baseball. I don't know.
Yeah, could be. Too busy playing the trumpet. But weirder than omissions in a version,
Yes.
I guess it's also an omission. It's just a full edit that comes up in the 1969 version by Frank Sinatra.
And here's to you, Mrs. Robinson. Jilly loves you more than you will know. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Oh, bless you, please, Mrs.
Frank Sinatra. Yes.
Now, did you know that some people say Andrew Dice Clay was even better than Frank Sinatra?
Yeah, I've heard that actually. Yeah.
Okay, so it's pretty classic Frank Sinatra. I'm actually surprised he was still making music in '69. I just assumed he died as soon as the years turned over.
This was kind of part of his like comeback, I think, in the '60s.
Shit.
Because he was around for quite a while.
Yeah, long history with this guy. You know who else has a long history is American restaurateur and entertainer Ermenegildo Jilly Rizzo.
Yeah, so that's who he's talking about?
I guess.
That's Jilly?
I think that's Jilly. So here's what we got to understand. This is maybe what has happened here is apparently some radio stations refuse to play this song because it brings up the name of Jesus. You can't take the Lord's name in vain.
Yeah. That seems like such... I'm like, going back... I'm like, okay, I get it, because that sounds like something that would happen.
Yeah.
But also... I mean, there's other versions that didn't have a problem. Like, was Ray Conniff like, fuck the radio? Like, I don't give a shit if.
Yeah, you think, and even the original got radio play, tons of it.
Yeah.
It won Record of the Year.
So, like, was that a huge problem, especially for like Frank Sinatra, who's already a big name?
Yeah, like, what did he have to lose? I feel like maybe he thought he's like, oh, my listenership. If this is his comeback, he's like, my listenership are old fuddy-duddies. So they won't appreciate their beloved Frank Sinatra saying Jesus.
Yeah, it's a strange story.
It is strange. And then he further alters lyrics to the point where, one, I don't think he's seen The Graduate. Two, he's like antagonistic towards Mrs. Robinson.
It's interesting, yeah. He kind of seems... Well, he's presenting Mrs. Robinson a little differently, almost. Like, more predatorially.
Yeah, so the first change in lines we see is after the first real verse, and he says, the PTA, Mrs. Robinson, won't okay the way you do your thing. Ding, ding, ding.
Ding, ding, ding.
And you'll get yours, Mrs. Robinson, fooling with that young stuff like you do. Boo-hoo-hoo. Woo-woo-woo.
PTA.
Parent-Teacher Association.
Parent-Teacher Association? So, like, she's a teacher in this?
Or a parent.
Or a parent, true. But, like, this is a school. So, like, this isn't just a younger person. This is an underage person.
Yeah, because in The Graduate, as the name implies, he is graduating. Like you said, he's 22. He just graduated college or university.
Yeah. So that seems to be the story here that he's going with. They're like, we can't say Jesus. That said, somewhat impressively for a song in 1969, comes down against pedophilia. So I say that's pretty good, all things considered. Like,
yeah, you know what? Yeah, he's a little shy on the Jesus stuff, but pretty clear on what the PTA will and will not approve.
Yeah, he's like, Mrs. Robinson, this is not okay. How's your bird, Mrs. Robinson?
Yeah,
he also says...
Why does he say...
how's your bird, Mrs. Robinson? Dandy, Mrs. Robinson, you say, hey, hey, hey? Well,
have you heard, Mrs. Robinson?
Mine is fine as wine, and I should know. Ho, ho, ho. I don't know about that one.
This genius says these are more Sinatra-isms that Frank ad-libbed in place of the original lyrics, reminiscent of one of his signature songs, Ring-a-ding-ding.
Ring-a-ding-ding, baby.
So he, like, kind of comes at this half-cocked, it seems like. He's like, okay, we'll switch some things around here. And then he's like, I don't know, how about just some old Frank Sinatra hits? How's your bird?
How's your bird? Yeah, so interesting lyrical changes. Seems to change the story a little bit. Someone was like, yeah, it's about an older woman having an affair with a younger man. And he's like, yes, children. Like, or something. Like, you like you said, he maybe didn't see the movie and just, like, had a synopsis and was like, yeah, okay, I'll do a verse based on that.
He's like, okay, yeah.
But it counts. It's very amusing the way he says it. It seems seems
Yeah.
not quite right, but I don't know. Like ding, ding, ding.
Ding, ding, ding. It's like classic, like big crooner style. Like he's
Yeah.
got the big band behind him.
So, very interesting.
It doesn't matter what he's singing, right? He's like, well, I'm just singing with confidence.
Ding,
And
ding,
here's
ding.
how's your bird, Mrs. Robinson.
Yeah, he's still doing the Frank Sinatra voice, you know. He's got his like good low notes.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would like it's very like jazz big band style. Lots of
Yeah.
brass and woodwinds, like saxophone, clarinet stuff.
Yeah.
Um
You can picture the like big stage he's on doing this, right?
Yes.
It's fucking lit up. And,
yeah. Old time crooner stuff. You know, jazz beat. I would say fairly heavy as far as jazz beats go. In
Yeah.
my mind anyway. Walking bass line. Yeah, so to
Yeah, you
me,
gotta walk
I
the
agree.
bass
You said
line.
it was pretty standard. And yeah, it's like this is very much like a jazz arrangement, but I don't know if I really hold much of that in my head. And maybe just because I don't have a lot of big band exposure, but to me, I'm like, yeah, that's that old jazz sound.
That's that. So, like, to maybe paint it for some nerds out there, if you play like Fallout, like 3, 4, New Vegas, it's very much in
Yeah,
the vein
that's
of
what
a
I'm
lot of those
associating
tracks
with.
on there. Some of them by Sinatra himself, of course.
Yeah, Sinatra, or Dean Martin, or Bing Crosby, or
Yeah.
whoever.
I think particularly you get a lot of those on New Vegas. You get a lot of
Yeah,
country on there, and you get a lot of
definitely.
these kind of big band numbers.
How lucky can one guy be? Oh, that's
I kills her and she kills me. But
He also
yes.
drops the Joe DiMaggio reference. Just wanted to note that because I think it just
That's
confused a lot of people.
too busy talking about birds and how they are.
How they are, yeah.
But yeah, it's your classic like bump, like the big climbs on horns, big stings. They're almost somehow more like cartoon sound effects than they are like music at some point, right?
Just because they feel so tied to like the part of the first half of the 20th century.
Yeah, and like tied
Almost.
to like the Frank Sinatra himself. Like I can imagine him doing like hand gestures and shit to every like sting and roll on the horns there and drums, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, is it solid? Yeah, it's solid. Like,
Yeah, it's
is it fucking weird? Yeah, it's fucking weird. Less weird, more traditional. Trini Lopez and Nancy Ames in 1969.
And here's to you, Mrs. Robinson. Jesus loves you more than you will know. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
God bless you, please.
Yeah, I looked these folks up. They're both kind of like folk country singers. Also, Trini is short for Trinidad, so that's cool.
That's right. That is cool.
Trinidad Lopez III.
Trinidad Lopez is a very fucking cool name.
It is a very cool name. Yeah.
So yeah, Nancy Ames sang the show theme and special material for the TV series That Was the Week That Was. And so she was known as the TW3 girl?
That was the week that was.
Yeah.
TW3. That's fun. That's a fun name.
That is a fun name. This is pretty like classic. You get your guitar in the left channel with a bit of gallop to it.
Yeah, a little more in the like country vein. Even
Yeah,
than like
for
Ray
sure.
Conniff. Well, Ray Conniff
Yeah,
is,
because you get like
mildly
the
country.
solo singers.
Yeah. Who are both country singers. They both, I mean, I was trying to look up like what they had done song-wise.
Mhm.
And it's a lot of covers. It's a lot of like folk stuff, you know.
Yeah, these are the real like working class ones, like B-list musicians maybe of the day.
Yeah, without having that. I mean, even like Frank Sinatra was mostly covers as well, but he kind of
Mhm.
is more well known. So that's just how it goes sometimes.
Right, that was a different era for that too.
Yeah.
Just because they needed a white guy singing things.
Yeah, exactly.
If it got out that people of color were making better music, the whole thing would be over. But,
Sorry, I had to write something down.
you
Yeah,
writing down
who,
what I said to use against me in court later.
Yeah, I need to write it down evidence. I need to record incidences. This one,
yes, Alex.
yeah. What's going on in this one?
Hand drums.
Hand drums. It's a duet. it's similar, but like because it's in the country style, like the guitar riffing sounds different because like you have an electric guitar now.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
like they do the little riffs, but it's like it's twangier. It's twang,
yeah.
right? So in terms of how they sing,
Mhm.
it's almost backwards, right? Because they will do a chorus and they'll each sing half the chorus and then they'll harmonize on the verse.
Right.
Which I would the easy first thought structure is everyone gets a verse or part of a verse and then you harmonize
and then you
on the
share
chorus.
the choruses.
Yeah, so it's kind of backwards. It doesn't make that much of a difference, but it is different.
It is an oddity. Another oddity here is that they do the Joe DiMaggio verse. It's the first time we're seeing it on a cover so far.
Mm-hmm.
But furthermore, they also do a boo hoo hoo.
Boo hoo hoo. Oh, like
A nation turns its lonely eyes to you. Boo hoo
they
hoo.
do boo hoo hoo. What does it? I guess their eyes are lonely, so they're crying.
Yeah, but it's weird because like anytime you throw in a boo hoo hoo, that is very sarcastic, right?
It does sound sarcastic, right? Like, oh, is the nation lonely? Oh, boo hoo hoo.
Oh, you miss Joe DiMaggio. It's like, okay. I'm not sure why we're taking this tone.
Yeah, that's interesting. I maybe at the time it sounded less sarcastic because I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it was more like folksy and wholesome.
Yeah, but I it's so hard to tell because sometimes I'm like, yeah, we invented sarcasm in the 90s, but like, no, we didn't. Obviously, we didn't.
Yeah.
So it's so hard to know.
Yeah. It's revealed at the end that it's live.
Yes, this seems to be from just looking at the album, the Trini Lopez Show original TV special.
Oh, so studio
it's
live.
yeah, one of those old TV special deals. Beatles did at least one of them. The Carpenters did several back in the day.
Yeah. Used to be just a big thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that was like the media. Nowadays we'll do like a live stream or something or like
Right, yeah.
whatever.
And
but back then it was like, how do we connect with
music video
fans?
made.
Oh, well, we'll do a TV event. Also, individual TV events were a bigger deal because there were fewer channels. And you could get to a lot of people.
Everybody was on them, man.
Yeah.
These kids and their damn TVs.
Damn TVs.
But yeah, this one is pretty like TV special sums it up. You could have seen this on any night in 1969 on your television.
But yeah, it's all right.
It's all right. I like the hand drumming. I like the drum kit on this.
It's always nice to hear.
It's always nice to hear.
Touching drums. One thing I will say about the drums.
Tell me.
The chorus, I think, has like a cymbal.
Yes.
It's like borderline distracting.
Yeah,
Not
it's
the chorus,
a bit.
it's the verse.
The verse, yeah, it's a bit loud, isn't it?
Like, okay, all right, let's hold it off a bit on that. But maybe the balance was off a bit because it's live.
Could be.
So whatever.
Yeah, hard to fault him for that. But we can fault them for not being as cool as this next version, Billy Paul in 1970.
And here's to you, Mrs. Robinson. Jesus loves you more than you will know. Whoa, whoa, whoa. God bless you, please, Mrs. Robinson. Heaven holds a place for those who pray.
Billy Paul. Yeah, I looked this guy up. Did we talk about him? I feel like I've searched him up before.
Billy, really? I don't think I
don't know what for, though. Maybe I was just looking up Philly Soul or something, because he's associated with Philly Soul.
Yeah, he's associated with Philly Soul.
But another fun fact, his birth name is Paul Williams, but he changed it so you wouldn't get confused with Paul Williams, who briefly came up when we were talking about A Star is Born, because he worked on the music for the 1970s version.
Right, Paul Williams.
So there's a connection there.
Okay, there you go. Billy Paul Williams.
Yep.
This is the coolest guy. So he's like you said, Philadelphia Soul. He's got a bit of like funk groove to him.
Yeah, he's known for the song Me and Mrs. Jones.
Right.
Which is another Jones song we
missed. Yeah.
Didn't know about back when we
We're gonna have to
about
resurrect
Jones
our Jones theme.
Yeah. We'll do a soda week. We'll do a soda review episode.
There you
and
go.
That's all.
That's what the people. I get a lot of emails. They're like, "What do you guys think about soda, though?"
We're like, "Do you like Jones Soda? Is it too blue?" Like, yeah, it's just blue enough, baby.
It's just blue enough. Yes, dog. So we get a cool bass line on this. Boom, da-dum, dum, dum, da-dum, dum, dum, da-dum, dum, dum, ba-dum, dum, dum, da-dum, dum. You get the keys running in there. A little bit of just a little touch of guitar responding to those keys. Some cool drums. This one sets it up and just kind of lets it ride.
It does. It really like has that beat underneath and then just like goes, but it still has the intro, like the verse chorus split, of course. Of course. And I like his doo-doo-doos at the beginning. They sound very casual.
Yeah, he's got a cool voice, Billy Ball.
And the piano, there's piano in there. It kind of plays along with the melody, mostly. Sometimes the bass instead sort of goes between those. But it's cool. Electric guitar licks. In this one, similar to...
Yeah, it's very... Everything's quite soft in this one, though. So you get licks, but they're quite, like, tight and quite under control, you know?
Yeah. They are tight and under control. It's interesting. Yeah, it does end up feeling kind of soft. Like, it feels like almost distant, just like the... Sorry, I was processing those words.
Okay, yeah.
It almost feels like distant. The way it's recorded, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe, because it is like... It doesn't necessarily sound like they're playing it the softest. Like, that piano's hammering away, right?
Yeah.
But it is like... It is distant.
But the piano definitely does... Like, it's not a super bright piano or anything. So it definitely has a little more, like, rounded sound to it.
And there is,
maybe
like,
that's kind of what they're going for overall.
A resonance or an echo around, like, his voice and things that gives you, like, a sense of space.
It does, yes. A sense of space, I think, is a good way to put it. So, interesting version. It's cool. It cooks, and I do like it. It has an extended do
I've
solo.
written that here as well.
Scatting, more or less. Yeah.
More or less, yeah. Which usually I'm against, but this guy's just too cool.
Yeah, he's just, I don't know, he's just going. He really seems like he's into it.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Cool guy. Okay, one other thing. Put it in your what with your cupcakes?
Yeah, his vocals like cut out.
Yeah, it sounds almost censored. Like
yeah.
Like he didn't say pantry.
Like he said pussy?
He said pussy. He said pussy, right? I mean, like what else is it?
Like, Billy, that's not what the line is.
Billy,
he's like, what?
Billy.
You don't put cupcakes in the pantry.
He's like, why would you put cupcakes in the pantry? They're going to go bad. Like, you're right, Billy. They're just going to get dry.
Yeah, you are right, Billy.
Billy. Yes. Okay, what else happens? Right at the end, everything starts to, like, fall away, and sort of it's just vocals, and, like, it's just tambourine and, like, a little bit of bass.
Yeah, there's almost a sound like somebody dropping a can down a fucking stairwell or something. Like it's just like
the tambourine.
That might
or
be it.
Bass.
Let me try and spot it. Not the tambourine. So, hang on. It's like before the tambourine outro. Yeah, like around 3:45. It's just like the echo on the drums. It sounds like something like falling in a stairwell.
It does. It's like... I mean, what year is this? Let's see. So it's 1970, so it's early for like gated reverb, but it almost has some like it has this like real like reverby sound to it. Not necessarily gated, but like super echo, like he's playing the drums at the other end of a hallway.
Yeah.
So it does have that sound.
And then
to
you're
it.
right. We get into this this like tambourine shakeout outro,
and then it does like a big jazz fin, like I said, jazzy. I think jazzy. It's like a bunch of like big like piano runs. And then they do like... It's just actually that. I wrote that on the wrong version, I think. He just ends with a piano run.
He ends because he goes do-do-do-do-do-do. And he goes... and then it does the piano.
Kind of just banging on the piano. Which, I mean, sometimes you just gotta, like, bang on the piano. Like, I saw Gogol Bordello this week.
Oh, yeah. How was that?
And there was a bit where the accordion player just, like, held down, like, half the buttons on the accordion and was like... Sometimes you just gotta play random notes.
Fuck yeah. That rocks.
Yeah.
Speaking of like things that sound like a live performance / like a sound test, Sylvia Vrethammar in 1975.
And here's to you, Mrs. Robinson. Jesus loves you more than you will know. Whoa, whoa, whoa. God bless you, please.
Yeah, I said Vrethammar, but she is Swedish, so I don't know.
Yeah, so she's a Swedish trad pop and jazz singer, and the daughter of the education official Harold Vrethammar.
Oh, she's Harold's daughter?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's crazy. They grow right up, man. It's nuts.
Yeah.
She
77.
like kind of got some traction off a cover of Son of a Preacher, which was done in her native language and not in English. Swedish is a language. Okay, good. I was going to say Swedish. Right? I lost all confidence in myself.
Okay, I don't know
Dutch.
what language it would have been. She also did she did an adaptation into English? Okay, I don't know. She speaks languages. I can tell you that.
Yeah. So this version is like predominantly bass, a little bit of drum hi-hat, and her vocals.
At least at first.
Yeah.
Um,
What do you mean at least at first?
am I thinking of the wrong version? Hang on. I'm just thinking. No, you're right. Yeah.
This
Hang
one,
on.
so I don't know if you've ever gone to like kind of like a
Yeah. It's all
an
jazzy at the
amateur show, and then like the band's playing a song but not like officially, you know, it's like it's either between sets or they're just like getting the sound worked out.
Right. So like the bass player's like grooving, and then the singer's just like, I'm gonna sing Mrs. Robinson on top of that.
Yeah, it's like I'll sing Mrs. That's exactly what this sounds like to me. And to the point where like they even do certain sections where it's just the bass or just the drums or just the vocals, and it's like, oh, they're like that's the fucking sound guy being like just vocals, and then the other two drop. Like it's almost uncanny how much this sounds like a sound check.
It's like like they're just goofing around. Although I mean, I'll give it to them. The bass line's pretty slick.
Oh yeah, like to their credit, they're quite skilled, but like. Yeah, the bass line kind of talks like William Shatner.
The bass line is like William
stop.
Shatner's spoken word albums.
Yeah, it's like bum, ba-da-da-ba-bum, ba-da-da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da.
Because it's true. Yeah, and that's like everything up to the final chorus, I think.
Yeah.
Where,
There is
like,
a piano.
Yeah, like a piano comes in. They do like it's like jazzy now. I mean, it was kind of before.
Yeah, this is like your
The bass goes like walking, and they just like do
chorus line kind of outro.
Yeah.
Or it's like
exactly.
you
Chorus
kind
line.
of get that swinging beat. Yeah.
Da, 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 da. You can imagine kicking legs,
Yeah.
and then they go back to that bass line.
Yeah. They really unite together on the sitting on the sofa verse. They're
How
like
so?
everything like kind of comes together, so they're all playing like the vocal melody basically. I should have timestamped this shit.
I see. Okay,
God.
so yeah, it's kind of like a timestamp is 2:19.
Yeah.
So they kind of
Dun, 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 dun,
the bass is playing like
Yeah.
I think it's playing chords too.
Yeah.
Like it's playing just the melody, and she's singing "Sitting on the Sofa."
Yeah, I think that was a highlight verse for me because it's got a good like intro in. The drums do some wild. They do a lot of start stop in there too on the instruments. So stops will do a line, they start up again, they stop, and they start again.
Yeah. So I liked this one.
It's fun. It
is cool, and it's like it's fairly jazzy, but it's like fairly simple. But like they keep it limited to like they lay down a pretty solid groove and then just like sing the song over that. And we're like Art Garfunkel was talking about how this was a mother or whatever, and like how it really had a good rhythm, and like just put a good rhythm under and you got a solid version.
Yeah, baby, you got a song. So yeah, they do that. They got a fun rhythm that's nice to listen to, but also it sounds like a sound check. That's not a quality statement. Just saying, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
But we like things, or they're things that sound like alt rock, like the Lemonheads in 1992.
And it's you, Mrs. Robinson. Jesus loves you more than you will know. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Rest in peace, Mrs. Robinson. Heaven holds a place for those who pray.
1992. Yeah, band that's been around since the 80s. Apparently they're still around, but it's mostly just one guy now.
Is that Evan Dando?
Evan Dando.
Who apparently hated this. So we like Paul Simon's fear when making this song was selling out by writing movie soundtracks, and then here we go in 1992, decades later, the same fear from Evan Dando, frontman, who told American Songwriter that he hated this song and Paul Simon as well.
Yeah, it's a very 1992 thing to say, I think. Like, yeah, everything else sucks. And I hate it because it is vaguely related to any commercialism whatsoever.
Well, yeah, this was made for the 25th anniversary of The Graduate.
Yes. And we'll see in the music video, it's fairly it has associations with the film. It's also this is the version apparently that was in Wayne's World 2. I kind of remember it, but I haven't seen Wayne's World 2 in years, but I used to watch it regularly. So I've definitely heard this version before.
Okay, I've seen it once. It also appeared in the hit film that I haven't seen, The Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh yeah, that is also a film I haven't seen.
Yeah, so yeah, his journey on this, Evan Dando says he talks about why this song was made, this version specifically. He's like, some people, probably wearing Italian shoes, said, we need to get The Graduate out to more of a flannel-wearing kind of audience.
Very 1992 as well.
Very 1992. He says, for the longest time, I couldn't believe we did it, and a lot of fans were disappointed that we put that out. They thought we were better than that we were kind of selling out. And then, in 2013, he says, if it's in a Scorsese movie, it's finally making good for me. I'm okay with it.
Okay.
So that's how he grew to accept this cover that he didn't like.
Martin Scorsese put it in his movie about guys who are kind of not very nice.
That's right. This version's kind of not very nice because it's all rock, baby. It's a little punk rock.
Yeah, it's a little. I mean, it's I think a very straightforward cover in that style.
I would agree. Yeah.
It's very much we'll do it on guitars and they'll be distorted.
Yeah, chuck a little distortion on there, a little bit of a heavier bass.
Yeah.
Your vocals of the time. Yeah, it sounds
I keep trying to and it's more like chugging. I mean, we talked about how he chugs in the original on the acoustic guitar, but now we're on electric guitars and it's playing chugga 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 chugga.
Yeah, a little chugga chugga.
And then bigger chords in the when he's so I don't know. I don't have much else to add on to it. It's very
I like
direct.
the drums. It's very direct.
Yeah,
I like the heaviness of it. I like the energy of it. I think if they had made the film The Graduate in 1992, this would have been a perfect fit.
Yeah. If it was a 1992 movie, there was a movie I was part of. There's a movie that basically is based around the idea that The Graduate happened, and this, the main character's mother is and grandmother are Mrs. Robinson, and I can't remember the daughter's name now. Elaine.
Okay. Elaine, I think that's
so
it.
then she's now the third generation and basically meets Dustin Hoffman's character and is is this my father? But it's not. Anyway, apparently there's a movie like that exists.
Weird.
Yeah. And I forget the name.
Now I noted something here. So there's guitar feedback on the sofa verse. And then slowly afterwards, we get a gross throat clearing kind of sound, not really a growl, but a kind of gross noise. I'm trying to find it though. Hang on. Oh yeah, around 250.
250?
Like a gargling almost.
Sounds like a bong rip.
Kinda.
To me.
Let me give it another listen there. Yeah, from a sickly bong though, a bong that doesn't have the airflow right.
Yeah, the bong has a bit of a cough. Yeah,
the bong has the black lung. But yeah, that's your big takeaways here. We've talked about so many punk rock versions, and this is the like precise time period when those were at their peak, like 1992. These like real simple pop punk, lay it down.
Yeah, it was.
And it's a real
leading
simple music
into
video too.
grunge. There is a music video.
That's them on a river, on a boat, jamming. He's wearing a name tag.
Oh, there's a name tag?
Yeah, he's got a name tag on his jacket. You can only see it in some shots.
Does it say
Evan Dando. I don't know, because it's actually too lo-fi for me to...
Yeah, the resolution's super low. It really has that, like... Well, I mean, it's, standard definition, like VHS, or like, I guess, tape quality sort of thing.
Yeah, somebody taped
or
it
maybe
on.
someone taped this off of MTV.
It looks that way because it does have the MTV title card for it at the start.
Oh, it does too, yeah. MTV, classic. And it also intersperses it with footage from the film, which is also fairly degraded. Like it's
it looks a little
definition
worn
VHS
out,
quality sort of deal.
Little SD.
So somewhat questionable. I don't know if it's on purpose or they're just both degraded in similar ways, but it is occasionally difficult to tell what is the video and what is clip.
Right.
There are some parts that I thought were ambiguous, and I don't remember what they are now.
Okay.
But like there'll be like a shot of seemingly a random person. Well, okay, so the guy in the scuba gear, probably from the video.
No, that's from the movie.
Oh, it's from the movie. There you go.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure. All right, so that's from the movie, but I was unclear.
Yeah, so basically, because like really truly the only shots that aren't from the movie are us looking at Evan Dando as he sings us this classic song.
And like sometimes the rest of the band.
Yeah, very infrequently, but yeah, sometimes the rest of the band. And yeah, you straight up get the ending of the movie where he fights them off with a cross at church and they run off together.
Which I think they also do in Wayne's World 2.
I've seen Wayne's World 2 once, and I kind of remember some of these bits you're talking about.
Like it has that. I mean, no, I'm not going to get into a whole thing about Mike Myers. Let's not discuss that now.
We could. It's blockbuster summer, but instead we're going to talk about Las 70s in 2009.
I'm his to you, this is Robinson. Jesus loves you more than you will know. Bum, bum, bum. God bless you, please, Mrs. Robinson. Heaven was a place.
So this is like two white ladies?
Yeah, they're a flamenco band, presumably from Spain. I couldn't tell exactly. I was looking through their Facebook page, which is a little outdated. Hasn't been updated since 2019. But someone said like, "Hey, you rock, and also come to Mexico."
Okay. Yeah,
I had to translate it with Google Translate though, because I don't speak Spanish.
Okay.
But I believe they are Spanish.
Yeah, and I'm just guessing off the name, but that their idea is to like make Latin or like flamenco style versions of roughly 70s era music.
Yeah, more or less the 70s. Close enough.
This one less the 70s.
Less the 70s, definitely less. But yeah, and like they do that.
They do that.
Although
yeah,
they don't
super
seem to be
energetic.
active
This
anymore
one.
because their website's dead.
Yeah, their website's down. I imagine if you guys are looking for new content from last 70s, you're maybe out of luck.
Yeah, but they have a bit of stuff.
But yeah, you get your Spanish guitars on this. You get your lively clapping rhythm. You got the
Like
couple
it's so
ladies.
fast. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
16th
yeah.
note clapping or something like that.
Yeah, did you ever see that guy? I think he was on like an America's Got Talent or something like that, and he's like, I can clap my hands really fast. And it's just like the noise that happens from him clapping his hands that fast is like, it doesn't even make sense.
Like it's not a clapping
It doesn't even sound like
it's not
clapping
correct.
anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I mean it's kind of a flamenco thing, I guess. This one is more novel. Like I compare this one to the Lemonheads in that it's a fairly standard, straightforward adaptation to my mind.
Yes.
But flamenco's way more novel to me than alt rock.
Oh yeah, I would say that's probably fair. Yeah.
So that's kind of my approach is like, yeah, cool. This one's cool to listen to, but also doesn't necessarily have that much. Like it's a different flavor.
Yeah, it really is just like if you go to like a chain restaurant and they're like, and now we have a Mexican burger, and you're like, okay, McDonald's. I'll try the Mexican burger, and it's like
I want to try it.
Nick.
I like jalapenos or whatever.
Like it's got jalapenos. It's got Frank's sauce on it.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, I guess.
All right, good enough. But other than that, I'd say just like flamenco guitar playing is more impressive. Sort of from a
then
technical
like power chord
perspective.
chugging, yeah.
Yeah. So that there's some appeal there as well. But beyond that, I do consider them similar ideas.
Similar ideas. And I will say that, the flamenco guitar style is more similar to the kind of noodling that goes on in the original, right?
Oh, that's true too. Get some more like picking and strumming.
Yeah,
guitar
because
stuff.
really, like, what makes Mrs. Robinson, the original song, kind of like cool and hooky is probably a big part of it is that noodly guitar. That's why you gets the extended outro too. Like that's why that's the guitar we hear at the end, is because that's one of the beefier parts of the song. So this version, like on first glance, is like, and maybe it's just coincidental that it happens to hit that style, but I guess that noodling is a bit of a plus, bit of a note in its favor. But otherwise, it does seem just kind of like a simple genre shift.
Yeah, or it sounds that way to me. I'll admit I don't have much of an ear for flamenco.
Well, and let's face it, these gals' whole thing is let's make covers of every fucking song. We've met bands like this before.
True,
it's usually
true.
pretty formulaic.
Just out of necessity, because like it's a lot of covers.
Yeah, you got to fucking knock these things out. You got a deadline to meet.
Yeah.
We've got to knock out our formula where we talk about our final verdicts, in which there's a worst version, a best version, and the version that an older person would use to seduce you.
Would use to seduce me. Okay.
That's right, baby. Alex, what's the worst version of this?
I kind of didn't like the Lemonheads version.
That's fair.
I'm gonna give it to the Lemonheads. I mean, I didn't think it was bad necessarily, but it was just so straightforward. And like we talked about, like they didn't really want to do it, maybe, so maybe that's part of it. But I feel like they didn't really, come to play, as it were. They were just
as it were. They did it for a pay. They did like theoretically sell out.
Yeah, it's selling out. They didn't even.
It sounds like they did, and they're like kind of upset that they did it. But hey, you got your payday.
Yeah.
Was it worth it, Lemonheads?
Was it worth it? I mean, they're still together. Well,
they're still. I guess. Well, Evan Dando's still.
One
kicking.
guy is still touring under the name the Lemonheads.
And hey, ain't that what it's all about?
Whatever band he's got. So.
Solid choice, Alex. I'm gonna say it's like I don't know if he deserves worst, but it's fucking like lyrically it's just too strange. Frank Sinatra.
It is odd. It is odd.
And just such a like off kilter intro when he's like, "Jilly loves you more than you," and you're like, "Who?"
That is as much as the verse is a little odd, the Jilly thing is just so weird. Like, who the fuck is Jilly? And also, you can't say Jesus? Like, we were talking about how the other versions didn't have a problem. Maybe he just had an older fan base, He's older. He's from a different era.
Yeah, I did suggest that.
Did you say that? All right. Well, I probably that makes sense. Then I agree with you retrospectively.
I said it in a dumb way. You said it a lot more succinctly.
Well, I had all this time to think about it.
Well, there you go. As I always say, Alex, Jilly loves you more than you would know. Alex, what's the best version of this?
The best version. Oh man, there were a couple good ones, I think.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it to Sylvia Vrethammar. I just really liked that smooth bass, and then kind of the jazzy bits at the end. And I thought it was a good groove.
Good groove. I think an even better groove. And I am basing solely on groove. I think it's like the winning factor for covers today. Billy Paul, I thought was just tight from start to finish.
100% front runner. Billy Paul, very good version.
Because, ultimately, we talked about the lyrics, and even after talking about them, it's like, I guess they're like kind of a movie tie-in.
Yeah.
Like the bat-shaped pizza at Little Caesars for the Batman. I was like, okay.
It's It's associated with the movie, I guess.
It's associated with the movie, I
and there's
guess.
there's something there. But like Paul Simon said, yeah, it means something, and then no elaboration. No elaboration needed. It means something, probably, yeah.
It means something. And then we shook hands and said goodbye.
Goodbye. Yep.
Okay. So yeah, Billy Paul, great groove. I like his voice. Hell yeah. Mrs. Robinson. Alex,
Yeah.
you're being seduced by an older person.
I am.
Geriatric. You've gone to an old folks home volunteering.
Right. Surrounded by sympathetic eyes
That's right.
and sympathetic ass.
And sympathetic ass. That's right. And they chuck on an old vinyl for you. They're like, hey, give this a listen, young man.
Give this a listen, young man.
And what do they put on?
It's 100% Ray Conniff singers. I don't fully know why, but it's Ray Conniff singers.
I think in the image of a retirement home we painted, like that makes the most sense.
Yeah. They're playing it. I don't know. It's just, I guess, more accessible version. I mean, considering it was considered like it was the first rock and roll song to win, or rock song, whatever, to win a record of the year. So like, given the timelines, I don't know. It was like a little bit cutting edge, you know?
Right. So it was something that everybody had to have their hands on, and still in that era of covers where
Which
it was
is
like,
so
well,
weird. It's not like the Beatles didn't already exist. I don't know. It's weird.
yeah, it is a bit strange, isn't it? But it's kind of like leftovers, right? Frank Sinatra's coming back. You can still cover a song to try and scoop some sales from a more popular song, I think.
Yeah.
Like I said, that older generation is still around. They don't understand this like liking just an artist unless it's Frank Sinatra, baby. But yeah, okay, Alex Ray Conniff. I think similarly, but differently, they're going to try and seduce me with the Lemonheads. They're going to get one look at me like this
Lemonheads?
guy likes rock and roll just like my grandson.
Oh,
like
I see.
he dropped off this album. Play that. They won't understand the music, this older person, but they'll think I will and will respond positively to that. Little do they know, I think it's a fucking sellout. That's my choice for most seduciest. That does
Most
it for our
seduciest.
final verdicts. You got a similar opinion, different opinion, want to talk to us about a version we didn't talk about, hit us up on Twitter, hashtag CoverMePod, at Jake the Cressy, at some Alex Wise Guy. Send us your comments, questions, concerns, suggestions for future episodes. Be sure to rate and review us. We're on Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, your favorite podcasting apps. You can also contact us via email at covermepod@gmail.com. Talk to us there. Tell your friends, families, neighbors, loved ones about us. What you can do is, now that Barbie and Oppenheimer are out in theaters, you can watch neither of them. Go to the theater, kind of sit in the hallway, like between where the movies are playing, and just play our podcast. And
Max out that volume.
max out that volume and see who you can get to kind of sit in. You know, start a revolution. And that does it, folks, for today's episode of Cover Me. And as we always say on Cover Me, it's a little secret, just the Cover Me podcast. Most of all, you've got to hide it from the kids.